Hello, everybody. Welcome to day 3 of your April number corner. I hope everyone's doing well and keeping up with everything that we're doing. So today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be starting our first collection. And that first collection is collecting quarters. Let me get that over here. Okay, so in collecting quarters, there's a couple things that you're going to be doing. We're going to be collecting 3/4 of a dollar and 3/4 of an hour each day. So in your mind, I want you to think about how much money is 3/4 of a dollar, right? And then compare that to 3/4 of an hour. There are two different totals. So hopefully you've been shared in your Google Drive our record sheet, which would look something like this. And we're going to be using our days to collect 3/4 of an hour. So on our first day, if you can go ahead and you can either print this off and record it to paper pencil, or some of you have it located in your Google Drive and you're able to print this out, or record it electronically. So on day 1, we are going to collect 1/3. So what is that going to look like as an equation? So I'm going to have 1. I'm going to multiply that by 3/4, right? And that's going to equal 1 times 3/4. Well, that's pretty easy. 3/4, right? So now what I have to do is I have to look at that as, what does that look like as money? So when we set up fractions of money, what would our denominator be? 1 whole would be 100 cents, right? So it would be 75 over 100. Would you agree? And then what would a decimal look like? Right? Decimal is pretty easy because we're working with money and we're very familiar with money. And we're just going to put 0.75. So now what we need to do is we need to think, what does 3/4 of an hour look like in minutes? Right? So I know if I break my clock up into quarters of an hour, that's 15 minutes. And then there's another 15 minutes, and there's another 15 minutes, and there's another 15 minutes. So that makes a whole hour. I need 3/4 of an hour. So did you answer 45 minutes? I hope so. But yeah, 3/4 of an hour is 45 minutes. So then let's think of, how would that look like as a fraction, right? We are dealing with, our denominator is not going to be 100 because a whole hour is not 100 minutes. So what would it be? Right, it would be 60 minutes. So we're going to go 45 over 60. All right. So we can then fill in for day 2. Day 2 is, we're going to have 2 of them now. 2 times 3/4. Now, what is that going to equal? 2 times 3/4. Well, I think it's going to equal 6/4, or 1 1/2. Because 4 goes into 6 one time with 2 left over. So that would be 1 2/4, and we can reduce 2/4 to 1 1/2, right? So what would that look like as a fraction? Right? 150 100ths, or 1 1/2, right? 50 100ths would be 1/2. Let's see if I can get the equal sign there. All right, so in money, let's think about, what would 1 1/2 in a decimal look like? Well, I know you're all really familiar with halves as decimals, so we're going to go $1.50. And now think minutes. So if I have 45 minutes, for 1 3/4, how much would I have for 2 3/4? 90 minutes. Great job. All right, so then what would that look like in a fraction, right? That's going to look like, you know what I can probably do is I can probably stretch that out just a little bit. So you might want to do that with your document. So maybe we can put it all on one line. Ooh. All right, we're almost there, it looks like. Oh. I think just a little bit more. There we go. All right, so how would that look like for time for our fraction? So that would be 90 because we have 90 minutes over 60. And that's going to equal how much? 1 and 30 over 60. But we don't want to leave it 30 over 60, correct? Because we know 30 is a half of an hour. So 1 and 1/2 hours. All right. All right, now we're going to finish up with today's date. That would be 3 times 3/4. And what does 3 times 3/4 equal? Right? If 2/4 or 2 3/4 was 6/4, I'm going to assume that 3 plus 3 plus 3, or 3 times 3, is 9. You got 9/4, or can you think of the fraction that would go there? 1 whole, nope, I'm sorry, 2 wholes, and, right, there would be 4 goes into 9, 2 times with 1 left over. So we'll put our remainder over our denominator, and we have 2.5. What would that look like as a fraction? So if 75 over 100, 150 over 100, kind of reminds me of Anthony's problem, right? If you haven't hit that yet in your Bridges unit yet, this is counting by 75s. So this is pretty easy. So I'm going to go 225 over 100, or again, now it's not 2.5. There you go. One of Mr. Keller's mistakes. So 100 goes into 200 one whole time, right? With 25 left over. And we all know that 25 cents is a quarter. And then we can write our amount out for $2.25. Now let's think minutes. What is the pattern? If 1 3/4 of an hour was 45 and 2 3/4 of an hour was 90, how much is 3 3/4 of an hour? I think I'm just going to add another 45 to it and get 135 minutes. Awesome. So what does that look like a fraction? Well, I have 135/60ths, or 60 goes into 135, well, 2 times, right? With 15/60ths left over. Well, we can't leave it as 15/60ths, but if I look at my clock, 15 minutes is a quarter of an hour, right? So I can change that to 1/4, and there we go. All right, so the first thing you're going to do every day, and we're not going to be doing this together as a group, so keep up with your calendar collector for April, and we'll come back to this and check our answers every like 4 or 5 days to get our calendar collector up to date. Okay, so I hope everything's going well for you, and if not, if you're having any trouble, please feel free and email your teachers as soon as possible, and we'll reach back out to you and help fix whatever problems need to be fixed. And if not, you seem to get this, which I know you will, we will talk to you later. See you next time. Enjoy math.